Okay, well, I started off doing graphic design about 12 years ago, but I kind of came into that trade in a back door too, as a blacksmith. Ironically, I ended up working for an artist blacksmith in Cranbrook and ended up taking on a lot of the design work for his company. Did architectural sort of design, so I designed that. And during a slow period, a friend of mine opened a graphic arts or a media company in Cranbrook, and they needed a designer. And so I kind of just fell into that role and learned on the job. And over the next couple of years, developed a passion for typography. And so as I sort of grew in digital type, I got more and more curious because of my roots in the other historic trade, the blacksmithing, about the roots of graphic design and typography. And if you go back far enough, the designers of documents and that sort of thing, the printers. So I went to my local print shop, commercial printer, and asked the fellow how I'd go about learning how to hand set type in the old-fashioned way. And he said, "Well, how much room do you have?" So it turned out that he had an old press jammed in the corner that had been sitting there for 30 years and just needed a home. And so 2 or 3 weeks later, I was hiring a crane truck and moving this big press over here into my garage. And so over the next 3 or 4 years, it was a process of learning how to use the equipment and cleaning it off and sorting it out, because again, it had been used, but not much for the last 30 years. So there's not a lot of places you can go to learn it. So I kind of had to, between books and online resources and taking a few workshops where I could, learn how to use it. Well, Clawhammer came about because a couple of reasons. I ended up running my own design firm in Cranbrook for about 6 years, and when the economy changed, the type of work changed, and the type of projects that were available changed, and I ended up being in charge of projects that weren't enjoyable, and so I started sort of resenting the work that I was doing. I wanted to be a designer, is what it came down to, and I ended up being a project manager. And so I just decided to look for a change. And in the back of my head, I'd always sort of thought it would be nice to use the press I had in my garage as more vocationally. And so I thought it would be interesting to set up a small shop that you could show people how to use it, put on seminars and workshops, as well as print a line of paper goods and do custom work. So because of the things I like about graphic design, I like about the letterpress, but I get to do it with my hand instead of with the mouse. It's sort of a natural progression back and forth, actually. Except for the product is very tactile. It's once it's done, you can't edit it or change it or revise it. It's just sort of, that's what you get. So I ended up, we lived in Cranbrook at the time. We were looking around for a good place to do that, and we ended up sort of stumbling into Fernie because there's another fellow in town who had a press, actually just his press, and he comes from more literary tradition, so small books, chapbooks, poetry, and that sort of thing. And in the end, we ended up deciding to consolidate our equipment and create a space that was sort of more suitable for groups to come in and learn about it. So in the end, we moved to Fernie to look at starting this, but we didn't think it happened so quickly, so we came across this space here, like the gallery and this, and it just seemed to suit, so we sort of snapped it up and pressed ahead. So I still do quite a bit of visual design, but I'm trying to overlay it more and more with the printing and the gallery. So